Hello and welcome back for our final game of the weekend where OpTic Gaming take on Clutch Gaming. If you were guessing, let's get things moving by taking a look at the starting lineups. On the blue side, it is going to be OpTic Gaming. They are fielding top lane Ziggs, Akaadian in the jungle, PowerOfEvil locking down the mid lane, Arrow throwing them around at bot with LemonNation as his support and Coach Zabutine.
And on the red side, it means it's going to be Clutch Gaming. Top lane, Solo, LirA in the jungle, Febiven mid, Apollo bot, support Hakuho, and Coach David Lim.
And yesterday, both of these teams took upset wins and they could look to earn their first 2-0 week coming into the split now.
I mean, the good news is for these teams, one of them has to be 2-0 at the end of the week because one of them has to win this. And for OpTic in particular, they seem to have their pieces figured out. Akaadian and PowerOfEvil helped Zig survive being camped and held off the bleeding in the early game, which allowed for mid-game comeback team fights where Arrow really did pop off on that twitch that he's known for in team fighting.
That's true. We'll see if they can repeat that kind of performance versus Clutch Gaming. We did see Akaadian warming up Zig yesterday, so that could be big. They did steal every inch of their game versus TSM. Whoa. Clutch played so great.
That one was one where they showed a lot of control and restraint, and Clutch also had to come back from even a devastating level 1. They brought it back off of a major Drake and Baron steal from Apollo, which really did solidify them back in that game and allowed them to get themselves to that point where they scaled. And when they scaled, Febiven did a lot of the heavy lifting in team fights, and now we're looking at two of the best performing members for each of these teams going head to head, and there's a lot of history between these two mid laners here.
Oh yeah, you would think here, the EU history, everything that these guys have is going to be absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see kind of if one gets that early lead and then kind of sticks it to him, you keep going, or if you're going to need the jungler help. You know, all chat, you need your jungler.
But yeah, Febiven versus PowerOfEvil. Historically, in the EU LCS, it's the first time they're playing against each other in NA. In the EU LCS, Febiven has gotten the better of PowerOfEvil over the last 2+ years where they've been playing head-to-head.
Everybody's somebody's kryptonite, right? Isn't that how it goes? Corki and Gangplank knocked out of the list. Zoe is the first one for Clutch Gaming. Teams taking their time here, figuring out what it's going to be. They probably figured they'd get that ban onto Febiven for Corki. Solo takes the Gangplank hit. You think he came in with the name Solo? I think I'm going to be a solo laner.
His name was originally the Solo King.
There you go.
And I remember him as a Renekton Rumble player.
Oh, so he knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. Talia is that selection for Clutch Gaming. Shut down PowerOfEvil a little bit here with 2 bans to start things off.
Yeah, mostly across the mid lane here. Azir still on the table. That's the one that jumps out to me as what you would assume is the next ban, but we talked about
Camille off the table.
That's true. We talked about Febiven versus PowerOfEvil though. So
that's true.
There's 4 mid lane bans so far. Will a 5th one come out here from Clutch Gaming to pinch that pool down even further? Because both these guys, you can tell, are heavily focused on that mid, and there it is.
There it is. The Azir does get taken away. First pick. Going to hover the Jace with 20 seconds left. That Galio, however, still on the board. PowerOfEvil is going to take safety to the mid lane and for the team globally.
Yep, Galio saw a bit of a resurgence. People started building him AP again after it surged again in the LCK. It was played a bit, I believe, on the Demacia Cup.
Yep.
But now it's really made its way into North America. Combines incredibly well with things like Camille and Jarvan, and even Zac to start team fights off. Rakan is another one that's near the top of the table for helping the Galio get in. But now he's mostly a semi-AP mid laner. We saw Bjergsen actually build a Rod of Ages and a Morello's, whereas normally the build includes something like an Abyssal Mask afterwards, where you really do buy 1 AP item and then start moving. And there's the Camille that we were talking about.
Also had that in Academy as well. A little bit more of a damage-doing build, if you will. The Camille does get locked in, so it goes by the Gnar and Ezreal pick again for Apollo here. He says, remember what I did on this? And they get 2 good picks for themselves, but it is going to be the Braum and the Camille. 2 great pickups here for OpTic Gaming in the first 3 of their phase 1.
And I'm interested to see what happens with this Camille, because one of my big criticisms of Zig as a player is that he never played Camille ever. Back when he was on Phoenix 1, he was kind of forcing his team to ban it, even on blue or red side when she was OP. It didn't matter. It was taking up a ban. And I'm going to check his history right here. He has 0 Camille games across his entire career. So I wonder if this is just going to Akaadian in the jungle here, or if it is going to Zig in the top lane, and he has picked up that champion, because that would definitely check a box that before was a criticism that I had of Zig.
Very interesting. He is somebody that absorbs in the top lane, so he'd have to be careful if he does get a killer champion to go in. Won't be as tanky with that aggression he usually finds on his top side of the map. Cassio versus Galio. First time both of these players have taken this champion into NALCS, so they're kind of going off of their list that they've had so far. Febiven on Cassio, and PowerOfEvil gets that Galio as we're in ban phase 2 here. Twitch, Tarek, another AD carry as we would figure for Arrow, but he does have a Barret possibility coming in.
Yeah.
And the Tarek with one left for OpTic Gaming.
The Cassiopeia for Febiven is going to struggle if the Camille plus the Galio get in onto her and just have that combination. The Thunderdome comes down. And I'm really kind of interested to see what the rest of Clutch Gaming's draft looks like, because they are going to want something to protect them from having that engage jump down. So maybe a Tom Kench would be what it comes out here for Hakuho.
I do like it.
Yeah, the Skarner ban towards LirA. His Skarner yesterday was
Ooh.
very interesting, and this would be a interesting pick here for Hakuho.
I like this, because I always liked Hakuho when he was kind of aggressive on his trundle picks and whatnot in the support position. Goes a little harder, so I feel like Shen fits right in his wheelhouse.
Shen also allows him to play towards the top side of the map, so if you have an aggressive matchup for Solo, Solo can go ahead and bully and not worry too much about ganks. But this also gives them a way to match things like Galio going to the side lane and have somebody show up. So I like this pick for him.
Ooh. Lots of pop-ups and knockups now. They've delivered the Glacial Fissure. You got Camille bouncing in, Galio with the entrance, and who now? Do they lock in for a possible top or jungle? We're still waiting to sort that out, and it is going to be a
It'll be a
lockdown
top
for the fight. Absolutely.
A top lane Camille, the first one for Zig in his entire career.
Pressure is on him a little bit to perform a more of, I wouldn't say a damage dealer. We know the guy for playing Kled, for playing a lot of cool things on the top side, so he knows kind of those boundaries, but will he know his Camille boundaries? We get a last lock in here as well. Kha'Zix for LirA in the jungle, so he can stay aggressive.
Yeah, but that means Akaadian on that tank jungler here. Good front line for OpTic Gaming. They're going to look for a lot of damage from PowerOfEvil, but the thing is this matchup, you want to buy Adaptive Helm, possibly Abyssal Mask right off the bat, against the Cassiopeia to reduce her damage. So then a lot of your damage comes from Arrow's Kalista, which is more of a mid, early game champion, and then you have the Camille that needs to scale here. So if he's not building AP in the mid lane, they have the distinct lack of magic damage on this team composition, whereas Clutch have really diverse lanes here in terms of the damage they'll be dealing.
Either team looking for their first 2-0 week coming in. Get the matchup of PowerOfEvil and Febiven here. And their history throwback. We'll see who can start off the NALCS record for themselves as they get into it. Febiven kind of had the upper hand in this matchup in the history over PowerOfEvil. We'll see if that continues. Hashtag OPT win, hashtag CG win as we get on to the Rift, our last game of the day here in week 4. It's going fast. Yeah, it's going fast, and teams aren't having a lot of time to recoup and figure new things out. It's how well are you doing right now.
Exactly, and right now, these two mid laners are killing it. Febiven, highest kill participation on his team, 83.7. A lot doesn't happen without Febiven involved. Whereas PowerOfEvil, highest on his team, 82.7. So they are right there neck and neck, and the action will most likely evolve around that mid lane.
OpTic versus Clutch Gaming. We are on to the Rift for our last game of the day. Let's see who gets the victory. The first 2-0 week for one of these squads, and somebody has to go away with that loss. Pretty even starts, or I should say orthodox starts here from either side. Not too many stopwatches this game. Just 2 on each side.
We're doing it. The stopwatches are getting out of there.
Happening? And we have the shields on the top side for a little bit of that defense and help.
Yep, I like the Camille runes right now. The Comet is fantastic for her. A lot of people were saying, you know, maybe press the attack or something like that, but the precision tree just isn't as appealing. The Comet going down sorcery gives you that extra AD to help you last hit, whereas attack speed doesn't do much for her. And then Resolve Secondary allows you to survive matchups with things like Second Wind or even the Iron Skin to deal with the Gnar early on.
Minions have spawned.
Slow checks with Mystic shots everywhere. from Twisted Fate Ezreal.
Try to get some gold. It's Kleptomancy. If you throw out a Q and you get a potion, you're like, boom, lane phase 1.
That's true. Imagine you get 2 or 3. Ooh. Getting crazy, getting crazy. We'll slow down. So that ward on red, they'll have a bit of information here on Akaadian to start things off. Not usually someone you see on the Sejuani, things that kind of hold back. He knows what to do.
Yeah, Akaadian had played the Jarvan and the Kha'Zix, as well as Rengar and Nunu, but he does have a Sejuani game against TSM back in week 2. So it's not, you know, it's interesting because I feel like all the junglers kind of play tanks at this point. It's not, it's more of the bruiser junglers that are the abnormality. So, Akaadian just playing the tank, just like, you know, Dardoch's playing Zac, being in charge of engage and being a playmaker.
And getting him on that as well, that was saying, hey, we want a Camille. Kalista was kind of left up there. They didn't prioritize that, but they definitely get in with that Camille on the top side, especially Galio to make sure PowerOfEvil can get the fight. So that combo definitely meant something to them on the side of OpTic this game. See if they can use it.
Febiven's going to go ward that little pixel brush off to the side because they know that Akaadian started on the bottom side of the map, and that would lead his route towards the top and would most of the time put him past that ward if he is going for a mid lane gank. It won't protect him top, but you can see that Solo put his ward down in the tri-brush to kind of protect from that happening as well.
Scuttles it up on the bottom side for LirA. He finally gets enough mana.
Ah, yes.
Ugh.
Presence of mind. As soon as you level up as Cassiopeia,
Yeah.
your mana bar turns white and you just go all in. It really does help her. It's absolutely an interesting change that happened with the runes Reforged, where people would take things like Corrupting Potion and then just E you down. Now, you can just Presence of Mind, E them down every time you level up. And it works out, even when Cassiopeia draws minion aggro now with the changes in you know, 8.2. Hasn't affected her at all. LirA getting bullied by LemonNation here.
I like the sheet.
Still gets the smite, though. And Hakuho.
Interesting little invasion. The jungle power in numbers keeps Clutch Gaming alive, and the fact that they know Akaadian is top keeps them a little safer here as we get slight parallel jungling going on.
Yeah, do have to watch out, though, because even though Akaadian is on the top side and they know a bit about it, Zig into this Gnar has ways to set up the gank, but Akaadian is just going to sit in the bush. He's actually going to back away so he doesn't get spotted there. They don't know. But Solo, you see, he actually doesn't go up to the bush to put the ward in. Decides that would be too risky, and instead just places it a little bit further, so he won't really get much information there, and his river is not warded at all.
Play it safe. He's going to leap himself out, but he is getting a slight push on the lane if he keeps getting his boomerang to go through everything. 25's up there. Yeah, so everything's staying pretty safe. We just saw that teleport back in the lane from PowerOfEvil. No, his Unsealed Spellbook is working perfectly, but Hakuho as well with the Unsealed Spellbook. You look for him to change as he gets throughout the game for that global pressure towards the middle part of the game.
He's definitely one of the best support users that I've seen. Him and Smoothie using the Unsealed Spellbook has been an absolute delight where they change it to match the situation. I remember his teleport with Ornn to the mid lane to just help turn around a fight. So Hakuho will have a bit of global pressure to match things like the Galio later, like you said.
So different. Unless you played against it, you don't really consider, because you think of what champion is coming in, what your positioning is, you have to hold flash, and when that's completely turned around in somebody else, it becomes such a huge play for your team. Really something that players are still getting used to, especially when you see the double Unsealed Spellbooks coming out from some bot lanes around the world. 5 minutes into this one, and pretty even CS around the board. Febiven doing well in the mid lane. Sees push PowerOfEvil out with that teleport to start things off.
Right now, it looks like a little bit of a minor collapse here onto Akaadian. He spots the ward going down, so he knows they're in his jungle. But it would be just the Kha'Zix. But he's a level up.
He says, yeah, okay.
Does he trust this? He should know the Kha'Zix's damage output.
I don't know. For the consideration, Akaadian looked like he was kind of fronting back, saying, yeah, my team is coming, but they have vision on both mid and top.
Yeah.
So LirA knew he was in the safe. A few shots from Apollo, nice unbreakable as they get hits back under Spirit's Refuge. And a bit of a trade on both sides there, pretty even.
Super good taunt, though. Double taunt there from Hakuho to lock him up and give him some damage, but still, Kalista's early game is just really rough to deal with. And you can see LemonNation actually already took a back and swapped teleport and TP'd into the lane there. So he doesn't have a combat summoner spell to really deal with an all-in from Clutch Gaming's bottom lane.
A little deep vision here, actually. Gonna play Scuttle, one of my favorite things to do. There's pressure from Akaadian. They saying, how long can we actually make this happen? We want to get Dragon involved. No, but I'll peel him up. Hakuho is just on the edge, and Febiven still has control over that mid lane. So I like what OpTic's thinking. Clutch Gaming isn't really buying into it.
This might be a decent amount of damage. Cloud Break does hurt. Okay, even goes through the shield a bit. LirA up! Heals it up.
Get themselves to safety. Yeah. It's interesting, those kind of things, the Wind Drake, fast attack speed, more DPS, kind of what the Drakes have in their pocket.
Oh, Akaadian wrapped all the way around here. Does have a smite. Takes it away.
Thank you very much.
He's almost 6.
He's gone.
You can see Akaadian at the bottom left corner of your screen is almost level 6 here, whereas LirA's still struggling to get to level 5. They'll get it off this camp, but they see him on it. Is Akaadian just going to wrap around? Okay. Akaadian's... LirA knows not to do it, but he's just going to wait. Ah, so what LirA's doing is he's saying, okay, if he has a if he doesn't have a ward here, he would just come check and assume that I'm doing it. But he gets Hakuho to come kind of do a little bit of bodyguarding here and make sure that he doesn't get invaded and have more camps stolen away.
Quick recon mission. Good timing, too. Arrow's gone back. They just kind of have support versus Apollo in the lane right now, even though he's low on mana. So expect that. Maybe a kind of disjointed back here would come from Clutch Gaming. And Hakuho needs to stay in lane, and we'll just see him get another rotation. This may be worked by Akaadian. Seeing that low mana bar means it is a very gankable Apollo.
And he hasn't backed yet.
Yeah, they decided to get out.
He hasn't backed yet, so he doesn't have items, which makes it very likely that you win that fight, especially with the Bilgewater Cutlass for the Kalista. Let's talk about this top lane for a second here, because confirmed that Zig does have Iron Skin and has Second Wind, so it's to survive the matchup against the Gnar and have a little extra armor. And he rushes the Ninja Tabis immediately off the bat, which I think is what you should be doing against this Gnar matchup as Camille. And then you have the max of the E, of the hook shot, to turn the matchup and kind of keep up with him, have that low cooldown, because Gnar does not max leap until final skill up.
Yeah, kind of just your way in.
Yeah, so have ways to constantly go after him. And Hakuho almost by himself, but
Very
gonna have
early Spirit Refuge, but a very nice taunt through. They bring PowerOfEvil in. Hakuho buys a bit more time, gets the shield down, does not have enough Spirit's Refuge. Oh, 1, 2, the hits come in. The flash is held, but the heal is used. Akaadian just gets out alive. He might have even taken a live there, but the turret was pretty heated up.
Don't risk it.
Stopwatches, exactly.
Exactly, don't risk it. This will get them first turret at almost 9 minutes here, and they're trying to make a counterplay on the top side, but Zig may absorb that pressure. We'll see how he plays this one out.
This is the job of Zig, to absorb pressure on the top side for OpTic. A few shots here and there. It's a big wave. He's trying to get tactical sweeps down to clean it.
They're trying to get his transform
on
solo.
Teleport coming in from LemonNation as you switched out on that earlier. And they will be able to save the turret, but also a little map control. How do they start to use it?
He completed it too, so he can help with like the wave clear and help with the warding up to kind of track LirA. So I don't expect this turret to go down in response. That'll be a free turret on the bottom side for OpTic as they get that first turret unanswered.
Nice little cheeky ward from LirA as soon as the Scar's Bloom passed over that area. And we'll see this again on the bot side. Spirit's Refuge wears off, and they're in.
Yeah, because Apollo had to take a staggered back, it means that he's not there, which kind of helps him in this situation, because that's just a full-on dive. PowerOfEvil now has aggro after Akaadian at it. He stopwatches on this last shot there, swaps to Akaadian, who then stopwatches right there too, and that most likely would have killed him based on the damage the last shot did.
Looking at it again, it was pretty heated, if you will. 2-0 now. OpTic with a nice dive on the bot lane. They did kind of figure out when Apollo would go back due to the roaming of Hakuho and low mana. So now they look to play maybe towards mid, maybe towards top. Akaadian taking himself towards the mid lane to make sure Febiven doesn't clear too much. Zig's now in a 2v1, but actually doing quite well with that shield he's getting.
I mean, Zig, back when he was kind of like the most improved player of the split, we were talking about him about a year ago. It was mostly because of the fact that he absorbed pressure so well, and he really didn't give his opponents much. It was never because he was like a big mechanical god or anything like that. It was because he knew what to do relative to his team, and that was back when he was on Phoenix 1 with Arrow. And when you're able to just kind of absorb pressure and they're coming for you on the top side of the map, that means that Arrow, this guy who likes to play for the late game, he isn't getting ganked, and he gets to scale up, and you really are contributing to how the team is playing to their win condition. And so you see there, even though Cassiopeia and the Kha'Zix could have been coming for him, he's still playing far enough back, sees the turret like he should, and doesn't take the risk at all.
Still, it's a very nice fly under the radar thing here for Arrow.
Yeah.
It was always Zig kind of being on the Scion on the front line, something that was disrupting, and you had Arrow, piercing Arrow, I'm Varus on the back. And then you'd be like, wait a minute, this guy is huge. They're doing a great job around the map and kind of keeping that chemistry going.
Yeah, and that was back when he got the MVP in spring last year. Now we'll see what they do right now on OpTic's side, because they have that Rift Herald. They trade it for the Drake, but this Rift Herald should turn into a mid turret for them. And in terms of CS across the map, it's really just been that bottom lane that's been going well for OpTic, whereas their top lane is behind because the range matchup. And then the Galio is behind because Febiven is just playing this well, but also the counter matchup for himself. Which kind of lends itself to the reason OpTic played to the bottom side of the map was that's their one winning matchup.
Yeah. Don't want to bring too much pressure towards Zig, allow him to play a lane with Camille. He'll be a nuisance later in the split push. But still, as we said, absorbing pressure on his own. Allow it to just happen and bring it to the rest of the map. Akaadian towards the top side. He's going to deliver the blue buff over here as they start to get a little more control. And LemonNation starts to get some encroaching wards into the jungle.
PowerOfEvil will get this blue buff for himself.
Merc tread, but is getting a little bit of AP for him. Sorry, not AP yet, but
all right.
Magic resistance at the moment.
I'm expecting the Rift Herald in the next minute here, whether it's mid or it's top side. Arrow is shoving top. Oh, fight on the bottom side of this.
Everybody owns one side of the jungle. Zig's trying to hang out on the own side of Clutch.
They're gonna go
Look
top.
at all that vision, and yeah, why not? OpTic owns the top side, and that's where they will pressure. A back from Apollo as well. They're not going to continue to push this wave on the bot side.
They're going in. They're going to try to get solo here.
Huge. Up, down, all around, getting knocked back and forth as Hakuho tries to enter the fight, but he might have just entered the frying pan. Solo goes down. They got the chase. The Winter's Bite hits a few more, but it does not connect from the Renslow as well. Can they retreat from the fight? They've gotten themselves in a little deep, and the focus wasn't on the turret.
Yep, it was just to get that kill onto Solo. They get the flash out of him, but they blow a heal and flash of their own to do so, whereas LirA just clears mid lane.
Fans feeling good. Start of the cheer as OpTic is now controlling Clutch Gaming's side of the map, and LirA walks right into a full team of OpTic in his own jungle.
And now he uses the Rift Herald to help push down this mid turret. There's no jungler on the field. Cassiopeia would have to wave clear this, but with 4 people strong, this means they get to shove bottom and mid for OpTic, and OpTic are showing, you know, a different side of them than that late game team, play for the late game, the Gathering Storm team that's kind of been picking up 2 wins here or there.
Keeping things active all across the map and not just being okay with one. I wonder how this would have played out if Apollo kept pushing that bot lane, but still, OpTic comes up with a few kills and they would have had that damage on mid anyways.
Yeah, but they don't get that Rift Herald to take the turret, so they don't open the map up completely, and Febiven gets to keep this going. And as we can see, that turret is pretty close to going down on the side of both teams. But right here, OpTic,
Top fight.
they make sure nobody's there. LemonNation is pathing through, and Arrow even uses the Q to just get himself further towards that right side to cut off Solo's retreat. He heals to back up and drop turret aggro, and then they get the flash out of Solo, but he's already dead. And then Hakuho, looks like there's a call there on whether or not they should go, and it's the retreat. It's the conservative call there from OpTic, because there were 4 stacks of the Sejuani passive on the Shen, and Akaadian could have easily pressed the EP and stunned him.
Definitely keeping a good focus on what's happening. Not getting too ahead of themselves. Something very easy once you are in the lead. You feel like everything's going your way. Still got to remember things can go wrong, especially only 15 minutes into the game. Core items are starting to be hit. There's the Abyssal Mask onto PowerOfEvil. He can stand up in these fights a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
A little AP to start with the ability tome right behind.
Yeah, it helps him with the matchup up against Cassiopeia. Merc treads into the Abyssal Mask, ends up giving PowerOfEvil 135 magic resistance. And remember, Galio's W scales with magic resistance, and also his damage output from his passive scales with magic resistance. Magic resistance on top of it.
Scaling!
So the magic resist helps him both offensively and defensively. There we go.
I like it. I follow. Sure, everybody is there. He is going to be a tanky man with a little bit of damage is what we're saying. 103, same thing as Arrow as they continue to keep the pressure on. Wards are still all the way through the bottom of OpTic, so you can see Solo getting a little bit of help, his vision as he gets the pressure up. But Clutch Gaming just has to make the right decision on the other side of the map. It's not about Solo right now. It's if they can defend the pressure from these 4 members of OpTic.
Yeah, and right now OpTic are trying to get this mid turret by going top and mid constantly. They don't have really any wards on the bottom side, and Zig is just kind of there to farm up. But that Ocean Drake will be up in a minute. And we might see OpTic either go for a quick play here to get one of these two objectives between these two top lanes and the mid lane, or they're just going to swap their wards and go to the bottom side and swap their lanes after one more push.
Frozen Mallet making things a little easier for Solo. Getting the face of Zig harder now, kind of be a bit of a nuisance, and their wards have died off. They're trying to take control and stop that snowball towards the top side of the map, replacing pink wards with just a few of those vision wards that Solo's trying to get for himself, along with the team's alterations. Apollo clearing up on the bot side, not having his game as yesterday. Stealing Barons.
Yeah.
Still the option, though, but I don't know if OpTic's going to give him that just yet. They're so full control of the game. Why chance of Barons?
Yeah, has to get to that scaling point, has to get a few items, especially in this Kalista matchup where she just bullies pretty much every laner. It's one of the reasons Kalista was banned throughout all of last year, pretty much. They finally get that middle turret, and the Ocean Drake is coming up, so you can see they swap to the bottom side, and it looks like Apollo is just going to fast push top instead of contesting here. But I think they... Okay, Shen had to get away. Taunt away. Interesting. Looks like Arrow is going to go to the top side to pick up the farm. Farm is more important than an Ocean Drake at this point. Or is it?
Maybe. They're all considering. This is the decision. When there's nothing to really do and all the waves are equaled out, you can see kind of maybe this, maybe that. We definitely have some wards to place or clear. They have 3 pink wards on them right now, but maybe not secure enough to place and protect. Just inside the edge of the brush, thought he might have missed. Oh, they aggro out the Ocean Drake. Looks like they will go down for it after all.
Yep, Trinity Force completed.
Oh, Fate's call.
Really good. TP.
Ooh, nice taunt out. That's the hit-o though for Zig. The ward was in the Wolf camp, and now they're going to be taking down Apollo immediately. Catching the Ezreal is huge.
Solo!
The kite chase, 4-man Gnar swipe into the back of the mid turret, but it's not going to be enough. They stay towards the Wolf camp, and they won't be taking any turret damage. LirA on the side can't find a way in to deliver any damage, and they take down Apollo and Solo to take down Ocean.
That's the Thunderdome composition right there. Camille throws down the Hextech ultimatum, and then with Hero's entrance, immediately able to follow it up from PowerOfEvil. Apollo's the target. It is not a fun game to be that Ezreal. I don't care if you can E away. The Hextech ultimatum will follow you through that. If she had just pointed it, clicked on you, and then it's good to go. Apollo actually was the one to walk up here. So as he retreats, he E's away and then flashes, but it doesn't matter. Shen ultimate comes down, but the damage is going to be too much. Ooh, and he still just gets blown up. Braum ultimate, another one to come through. But then, oh, right there, Solo looked like he really wanted to get that ultimate off immediately.
Arrow's positioning.
Whew, gets kind of bumped for a second, and then it takes him an extra one to kind of get everybody in a position to throw them against the wall. But they don't have Apollo. They don't have a big damage dealer. Pretty much Febiven just at that point.
That bit of a bump actually gave Arrow time to move himself away from getting swept into the wall.
These
just filled Solo full of arrows.
And these are going to be very hard fights for LirA to navigate, right? I always talk about how Kha'Zix is one of the champions in this meta that some people play that really doesn't work in a lot of team compositions. He needs gank assistance from his laners to even get anything done early. And then in the late game, he needs bigger threats than him to really focus down on killing frontline. Because he's not a frontline killer. He doesn't do enough damage to really kill backliners, but he has to find a way to threaten them. And especially when there are people who can defend, like the Braum or the Galio, it becomes even harder to get to those backliners and deal damage. So LirA navigating these fights is above challenger level of challenging in professional play here.
Gargoyle stone plate now for PowerOfEvil. He kind of just squeaked that in there. That was an influx of gold that these guys got over the past few minutes. 6-0, 20 minutes in, and a 4K gold lead. We talked about kind of what these mid laners had in history, and they focused each other in the picks and bans to push each other to these selections. It seems like PowerOfEvil and the team have just come out on top after being able to control the map itself.
What is going on in that bottom lane? Zig, like, CS'd some minions, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna just let 3 of these die because Solo could be here. Then he walked up and got greedy for him, and the Frozen Mallet Gnar came out. But the Camille is in a good spot now in this matchup, as long as the Gnar doesn't transform on her mid-fight.
Team Matt 2 just picked it up.
Yeah, you typically go Ravenous Hydra just so you can split push, but I do see Titanic Hydra as the tankier build that a lot of people opt into. There's PowerOfEvil TPing back to mid though, and it looks like a death brush.
Akaadian, antsy-pantsy. Got everybody caught. Vision's there, and LirA knows they are in a dangerous spot if they try to stay in their own jungle. Fate's call. Who's the target? It is going to be Febiven. Does he turn around, get the petrifying gaze off? Gets a few members, but everyone's going in the bounce house as PowerOfEvil enters the fight. They do lose Arrow, though.
They're gonna win
Not
this.
the greatest positioning, and it is going to be pushed back onto Akaadian. LirA looking for the next target to slow down and Hakuho to taunt, but they don't have it, and now they will say, let's 50-50 Baron if you really want to.
Well, there's no person to really contest it in terms of the 50, right? I would say this is like 80-20, maybe 90-10 with your smite up for LirA.
No ultimate to really get them in. LemonNation can't do much. Glacial Fisher's not even up for himself to get the crowd control there. And doing his damnedest, PowerOfEvil tries to stay alive for as long as he can, saying, how much can Baron damage Clutch Gaming? Can Zig put anything in? He's got to put his entire body in if he wants to do that. And it's too dangerous. What a turnaround. It was just 6-0, now 6-3, and Clutch Gaming get Baron.
Clutch Gaming, I feel like this name becomes more and more apt for them because their comebacks and coming in clutch when it matters, it's
Here it is.
getting a little bit ridiculous.
It's
right
almost
here.
like they had a little, just enough, I should say, to assess the fight.
Yeah, Febiven, watch this, because what happens is the Q misses, so he actually doesn't get stunned here when he has 3 stacks afterwards. Cleanses, flashes away, so he has to burn it a little bit later. But right there, that was huge, where they were able to get away, have LirA come in from the flank, and that's one of those fights I was talking about where having the Kha'Zix navigate it, he has to have somebody who's a bigger threat than him pull everybody in, and then he gets to kind of go after people, where Apollo was able to kind of snipe down Arrow.
Huge as well. LemonNation, even with the shield up, just kind of point of origin, if you will. He was a little too close to Febiven. Petrifying Gaze just behind. So many things went in favor of Clutch there, and really it plays into the favor of next fights for them.
And that was a fight that OpTic were looking for. Arrow popped the ulti to throw in LemonNation, but there was no teleport from Zig. He didn't have it up, whereas Solo, I believe, had teleport and even had the roam advantage. So it was one that you didn't get the Camille combo off because she wasn't even there and she couldn't be there.
I like the audacity here from OpTic, still inside the jungle, still trying to get initiations, but not catching any. It's just giving Clutch Gaming the awareness of where OpTic is. They have to be careful on these initiations as well.
Yeah, and being careful, you can see that Zig's build, it's not going to go for the Ravenous Hydra. It's the Titanic Hydra that'll come out here for him. Or he's going, straight for Asterix, but I feel like it's the Titanic Hydra build that's coming out here, which makes a lot of sense if he's going to be team fighting. The Ravenous Hydra is more for split push versus the Gnar, where you take some damage, then you heal it all up. But this one is more for, I'm diving in, I don't want to get instantaneously destroyed by the enemy team, so I'll have a little bit more HP in the tank. And I expect Asterix afterwards with possibly a Guardian Angel to back it up. I mean, maybe even an Adaptive Helm against this team that has a Cassiopeia.
Good. Febiven is kind of standing strong, even though he's being targeted. Saracen Grace also finished, so he gets some more little survivability here. Cleanse is just about to be up and flash a little bit later. PowerOfEvil and crew heading towards mid as you get a final clear from Arrow in the bot lane. It looks like they've somewhat set themselves up to prepare for a fight here if they need to.
And the more I'm looking at this from PowerOfEvil, when we discussed in Champion Select Rib, where the damage of this OpTic composition is going to be mostly Arrow and a little bit Zig.
Right.
We see an Abyssal Mask followed by a Gargoyle Stone Plate. There's not a lot of AP on PowerOfEvil. He's not an AP threat really at this point. He's more about just soaking damage and tanking. And right now, as this Mountain Dragon looks like the next point of contention, we're going to see a fight here. We'll see if OpTic's damage can actually match up.
LirA as well, a little happier to stand on the front line now that a Guardian Angel is finished up for him. He can be a lot more of a nuisance. The focus has been to take him out very quick if the situation arises, and now they have to second guess that. But like you were saying, against this Galio, not building too much AP, what kind does that armor spike point come for Clutch Gaming when it almost becomes too hard to fight them? They don't have too many members that just want to build straight armor.
Yeah, they don't really have people who will build straight armor, but it means that Apollo's Iceborne Gauntlet goes further, that the things like the Guardian Angel are going to mean even more, and then when Solo starts building his next item, which actually looks like he's going AP here, or I guess Magic Resistance, which is, I think, a little bit odd, because it would be mostly the Sejuani % HP. Just try and lower
Oh!
Apollo, you can't keep doing this!
Man is on a mission, and he completes it.
The Sun God? Nah, man, he's the god of thieves.
Nicely done. Gets himself a blue. Like you said, the Iceborne Gauntlet going to go farther. Well, he can keep them off the team now as he spits out those Qs. Muramon has already finished up for him, so he's not worried about that. But for 2 blues to now be on Clutch on these kind of Machine Gun Mage in the middle, and Apollo's Mystic Shots. They need to start doing that pressure. Getting pushed in a little bit still, however, their Baron wears off, and OpTic knows they can control the main
Galio.
pit. Hextech Ultimatum goes down, gets himself just outside of some danger. Field coming from Hakuho, but LirA and the rest of the team are already on that side of the map. They got to be very careful what their initiation is here and how deep they're going to go. PowerOfEvil says we're still going Arrow. Second guesses this. Pulls in the Fates call very early to hit the back line, but now they have to assess. Have they thrown LemonNation in too far? And they have. He goes down. The Glacial Prison in the end, they're kind of using things they would still use to defend here as they leave.
They're throwing so much there in like desperation. Clutch Gaming definitely more on the same page here, and OpTic you can see flailing a bit when they are once taking these last two fights that we've seen. Watch this again, because Zig goes in, and this is just a full commitment onto the Gnar. He gets the Galio ultimate, but the Shen ultimate from Hakuho is enough there. The flash to chase, but then the E from Zig, that's going to be on cooldown now as he gets exhausted, and LirA is just looking to hunt him down. You can see LirA cloaks, even though he gets stopped and taunted, Zig still walks back up, gets picked off there by LirA instead of fully retreating, and then LemonNation gets thrown in, throws a Glacial Fissure. These are the ones where you're like, man, I hit a 4-man Glacial Fissure. Man, look at this Sejuani ult. It's going to slow everyone. It's like, you don't have the damage. We just saw there that the Galio was not enough damage on his own, plus a little bit from that Camille, who's not even at that 2-item spike yet. It's just not enough from OpTic. They really do need Arrow in these fights for a long time, but Clutch Gaming, they're getting more resists on top of their items and going to be, honestly, just a higher damage composition for Clutch. So OpTic really needs to take long fights.
Absolutely. If they kept LemonNation, or I should say if he kept himself, Fates calls up to that support once he gets pulled in. If he kept himself in a closer position, Arrow stays in with a lot more attacks in that fight. Doesn't have to push himself up. Now, with that buddy system, Sejuani and Braum just hip to hip there with Arrow. Now, his flash still up, so he can get himself to safety in his plays along with the Quicksilver Sash. Both of those bot laners now have.
Yeah, and now we have a Morellonomicon completed for PowerOfEvil, and he swapped over to Ghost from Teleport. So yeah, his seal has been there for a little bit, but it's still, he's getting that point now where the AP is going to start mattering for him, and he will become an AP threat. But I wonder how much more he's going to get here, because this is not like a Roa or anything like that that's stacked up, plus a Morello. This is just that flat Morello AP plus a little bit from the Dark Seal. So I do want to see how much he's doing now, because the Galio was changed to have better AP ratios and a little bit less in the base damage department. Baron up in 5 seconds, so you can see OpTic are kind of posturing for it. And now they're trying to have a fight where all 5 of them are there, but Clutch are just a little bit stronger now with that gold lead.
Well, they know they have Zig's jump split. They can get into this fight just a little bit. Akaadian has Febiven in his eyes. Here comes the hero's entrance. They're going to get a great kite out of this. Apollo and Febiven to the backside. And it's Solo and LirA now looking to do Apollo over the wall right in the face of LemonNation. He just came up from going down. Is the switch there? The wallet gets himself taken down.
Oh, he sold him out. Arrow gets knocked back in with the blast cone and gets taken down there. And that's going to be Barrett for Clutch.
The things that cannot happen are happening right now for OpTic. Sir Clutch Gaming is very happy about this. The amount of kind of resources they're getting out of OpTic in these fights are enough for them to initiate. And that one was basically getting Zig to be just about 1,000 range away from the fight.
Yeah, and that was one where they pushed Zig out, and then they wanted Febiven. This Cassiopeia just kites backwards. He's got a Seraph's Embrace, he's got Flash, he's got Cleanse, and I don't even think they get much out of him here. Let's watch this right here. Doesn't get the stack up completely. Hakuho with a great taunt to prevent it. He doesn't have to blow any of his summoner spells, and they were reaching for him. And now he gets to come back through the fight and do it again. And right here, they finally found him.
Oh, is he gonna go down 6 alive? Oh, he goes down. Actually, Hextech Ultimatum is not enough for the shield. It is torn through by Febiven, and now they're gonna take down LemonNation consecutively up, consecutively down. He is not having a great end of the game here at 0-3-5. 6-9. Remember, it was 6-0 just a few minutes ago as Clutch Gaming starts to make quick work of the map. 31 seconds on to Zig as they are gonna look for some Nexus turrets. The waves on the sides aren't pushing in. They have a focus.
Exactly, they have a decent amount of damage here onto these turrets. They're gonna keep pushing. 20 seconds on Zig being back up. They're gonna try to end right here. Clutch are looking for that 2-0.
LirA staying in the front. PowerOfEvil in a bad spot. He could get the taunt in that stops the damage on the Nexus, but it's still the HP bars not being enough on either the OpTic members or the Nexus. 31 minutes in. Clutch Gaming look to put the final touches on the game, and the last few hits from Hakuho on the top side are going to be enough. Clutch Gaming find their first 2-0 week.
Another comeback for the team, off the team fighting and picking the better fights than OpTic.
Poised and thirsty Febiven as he takes a drink in the mid lane, thinking a decent game, but probably an early game to work on there.
I mean, Febiven had a lane advantage pretty much the whole time for himself in terms of CS. It was just that one time that the roam got away from him by PowerOfEvil, but with having 0 deaths on this Cassiopeia against a Galio, a Sejuani, and a Camille that will constantly try to dive you and Hextech ultimatum you, Febiven played incredibly well.
Finding those fights, yeah. Props to Febiven for kiting, finding the positioning that kind of made the team that much more perturbed to want to go the extra inch that allowed the fight to turn again back into Clutch's favor. I think we saw at least 3 or 4 of those fights, which means that OpTic definitely had that lead. They had a control to start these, but it had to be turned around by Clutch, and it shows you how much those fights were kind of thought about by Clutch to say, we can't take it yet, and now it's ours.
Yeah, and OpTic took a few of those fights where they couldn't have everybody there, and it looked like Clutch kind of read their minds and said they want to fight, and they showed up with one more member a few times in a row, and it definitely turned the tables for them. And I'm looking at the damage in this game. I can't tell if this was a high damage game or a low damage game because everybody is about at the same damage for Clutch Gaming. Whereas when you look at the kind of damage graph for OpTic, it looks like it was a bit on the lower side for them, but high for some members. So it's all over the place right now, where you have Kalista doing almost the same damage as Sejuani, Braum doing almost the same damage as Camille.
Right.
It's like, really, this game was a little bit, I would say, a low damage for both teams. They were trying to take these fights when they could, but Clutch, even just looking at the graph at a glance, just had a little bit more damage. It's not a high damage game overall, though.
Yeah, it's funny how it works out because you're actually, like, in early game doing less damage with your items to lower damage champions, and then when Clutch got their items, they were huge, more health, more damage, and now we're winning, and they were able to crush basically 20 minutes on. We saw, you don't do a lot of things when it's 6-0, but then you come back 9-6. What a way to turn the game around. Let's send it down to Avli and Clutch Gaming's Ninja in the bot lane.
Thanks, guys. Hakuho, congratulations again on a 2-0 victorious weekend. With this win, both of your games this weekend were comeback victories. How do you and your team maintain your mentality, your focus, and your composure in these games?
So they have an early game comp, and we know we're playing for scaling. Like, we pick Ezreal, Cassio. We know we're going to win once it gets 20, 30 minutes if we can just team fight well. And it was the same for both games this weekend. We knew we could just team fight well, and we just played to hold.
Well, it worked out for you. And we're about halfway through the split right now. Coming into this split, what kind of expectations did you have for this team, and how does it compare to where you guys currently stand?
I think everybody on the team had high expectations, like at least playoffs level. So I think so far we're doing okay.
And looking forward to the playoffs just in a couple of weeks, how will you and Clutch secure a spot in playoffs?
I think we can work on our early game more, and even when we're playing scaling comps, we don't have to lose our turrets like that hard, because the dives were pretty bad for us. Like, it's happened yesterday and today. So I think we just need to look over our early game more and how, like, we can maybe avoid dying.
For you personally, what's your main focus that you're looking at for the rest of the split?
I'm just looking to improve as a team and focus more on communication.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again on your victory. And to wrap up the day, let's hear it from the guys at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. Clutch Gaming with a 2-0 week. They'll be happy for that. But, guys, I'm going to need some help understanding this one because it looked like an entirely new OpTic Gaming for the first 20 minutes of that game. And then it all fell to pieces.
Yeah, you can be happy about the 2-0, but don't watch these segments because we're going to blast them a little bit here. The OpTic comp, I don't know how Clutch Gaming lets them get this. 2 winning early game side lanes with a Galio basically means that you should expect to get blown up. You heard Hakuho saying there, we need to stop losing turrets this quickly, but the draft doesn't make it that much easier.
Yeah, Kalista pushing lane, super advantaged.
Right.
Camille should be very advantaged into the Gnar, and it's very hard to shut down a Galio who can then augment those side lanes. So the early game kind of should go the way it does, and the added tweak here is that we haven't seen Zig actually win many lanes, so it's great that they had
had the Galio for it, but even just watching this first dive, this is what OpTic needs to do. They're playing it properly by doing that 4-man dive. What Clutch doesn't need to do is shift into 4 people when you're Apollo. Just run away when you see that you're
right. Sack the one.
Yeah, sack the one.
Huge mistake.
You can shoot your ult at the minion wave too if you're trying to save the turret or something like that. Chances are you don't. That's fine. But I like what OpTic's doing, like we said in the first 20 minutes of this game, where they give Zig a good matchup, but just like yesterday, they don't play to him at all. They're just kind of like, you know what, you're fine, Zig. You can lose this a little bit. We have a great comp here, and we're going to play around Arrow and Snowball with our 2 carries, which is what they were doing.
Exactly, and to let you into some of our conversations that were happening during the game, we were actually saying, wow, OpTic is really figuring it out.
Yes.
Like, they know that Zig can't win lanes, and normally Camille needs to split push, but literally all he needs to do is teleport in, get the ultimate down onto Squishy, so that Galio can ult, and they're actually going to win every fight, and they can run this play multiple times into eventually Baron. It is what we thought that was going to happen. You can see even a 4-man Gnar ultimate doesn't dissuade them from winning because they've already killed the damage dealer.
Right, so normally you're like, Camille into Gnar in a side lane, he should be killing that Gnar, and you can see why they feel like they need to make plays to win the game. They just generally lose lanes. They're negative 63 CSD at 20. So
PowerOfEvil said it himself, right? This team is good at kind of losing slowly within their lanes, and then they do index on winning team fights later. But to your point, Jet, that looks like they're getting it. That replay at 18 minutes looks like they're getting it.
Yeah, we were excited. We were ready to do this segment. We're like, they're figuring it out. Zig doesn't need to win the side lane, use the Camille Galio combo, and then everything comes off the wheel.
Everything falls apart. 21 minutes into the game, Clutch Gaming 2-0 in the mid lane. So again, this is just a minute later.
Look at them force. Look where Camille is. Look at the Camille doesn't have the teleport. Nothing can keep them in the Galio ultimate if you go for it.
Misses the Q on a knocked up target, so lets Cassio kite further out. Finally cleanses here. Should be dead even with that horrible engage. You don't have the Camille. It's a 5v4. Just generally, as a rule, don't fight 4v5s if you don't need to, and especially since the Gnar was there. It wasn't like they forced the teleport.
With only 1 damage dealer, because your Camille's in the bot lane. You've got a Galio who's now building tank for some reason. Perhaps some criticism to be thrown there for the build itself. But yeah, an ill-advised team fight gives Clutch Gaming an advantage. They start taking Barons, and they're able to close it out.
I can understand if you force the fight and like, oh, we lost track of the TP cooldown, but the Gnar is standing in front of you when you pull that trigger. That is just a baffling fight to me. And then like you said, because the Galio's building full tank, once you start losing these fights, you have no hope of winning them versus a Cassio Ezreal Gnar when you have that as your team comp.
Now let's look over at Clutch Gaming, because they were, in a sense, gifted a win. I mean, even in that interview, you could see it from Hakuho that he knew that it wasn't necessary. Oh, we controlled that game from start to finish. He called out a few things that they could work on immediately following it. But a 4-4 team. Yeah. Does their record reflect their ability?
No. Resounding no. They could have been. They should be 2-6 at the end of this weekend. They should have lost to TSM. TSM gave up way too many neutral objectives for no reason. They should have lost this game, but OpTic can't get CS leads despite winning early game, and then they can't close the game out, so they win this one as well. It's not a good look.
I think there's a bit of a strange thing happening in the North American LCS. This week is where it's been pretty evident. Yes, it was kind of upset weekend, but I think the reason that I'm a little bit disappointed is I felt like a lot of the upsets were the teams that I thought had figured it out hadn't figured it out. And then the teams that had been struggling were then just kind of playing a little bit better, if not the same way, to then beat the teams who are now exposing their flaws. So there's still a lot of teams that are lacking the players to match the draft, or also just playing specifically to executable win conditions. And there was a lot of mistakes this week.
Why do we think that? I mean, I think the easy answer, when I answer my own question before I ask it, is the fact that we had the 41 roster moves, right? I think that's the easy thing to look at and say, well, I mean, clearly this season as compared to any other season, when you have the most roster moves across the offseason, then it naturally will take more time for any of these teams to rise to that level, that cream of the crop where we're ready to say, oh, can't wait to see them on the international stage. Because I'm not sure I feel that way about many of the teams in the North American LCS right now.
And I agree with that. I think the added factor for all of this is normally when you have that many roster changes, you have a lot of rookies. And a lot of times rookies are picked up to teams because they go into a team and everyone really loves the way they play with that guy. He is a fit for their style, and the team is going to have more cohesion early. What happened this year is they're all veterans. So all of these players have ways they've played the game for 3 years already, and they can't change it in 2 months. So I think it's a much slower process to find cohesion with teams full of veterans. We had, what, 3 rookies at the start of the season, and we've seen a few more. We saw one come in today.
Yeah, with some subs and Academy League players, you're getting a couple more, but it is largely a veteran league, and so there can be maybe some rigidity in being able to circled habits and all conform to a single play style.
That, as well as the fact that all the top teams also had massive roster moves. It's no surprise to see the bottom teams changing everything up, but TSM changing out 3 players, C9 changing out 2, CLG changing out 2, with one of them being Afro move, and Immortals having a lot of their players end up on Team Liquid, but a new org. Like, there's so much difference, not just in the bottom where we're used to seeing, but in the top as well.
Alrighty, that's going to put a capper on this game and most of the weekend as the upsets rolled in this week, and a few players went the extra mile to make it happen, and they are our OP5. For week 4, it's Flame, Dardoch, Jensen, Sven, and Smoothie. First up, FLICKR Flame in the top lane.
Yeah, double GP games, a lot of Gangplank this weekend from a lot of people, but he had a super game against 100 Thieves and nearly carried the next one, barely coming up short on a few moves down the stretch against C9. But Flame was looking a lot like he did last year with a lot of his carry performances.
In a 1-1 week, good to see him earn that award. Echo Fox's Dardoch next up. I mean, the way we were oozing over him earlier, I don't think it's any surprise that he grabs this slot.
I like that word, given the Zac performance, and he was fantastic. The Jack's excellent counter gank, as well as playing around Huni, getting this top laner rolling so that they can win the game. And then in the tougher match versus Team Liquid, he did a great job of not only finding these kind of early advantages for his team, but as they started losing the game and things felt like they might be slipping away, he was one of the important members for making sure that they stayed in control.
Clutch engages and barely living. Next up, C9's Jensen in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think this was a close call between him and Febiven, who both went 2-0 this week. But even though there was that almost MVP level matchup between Pobelter, he kind of shut that hype down a little bit in that game, continued to perform in the next one on Azir as well, and this ended the week really strong.
Yeah, last week was the week of Pobelter, this week the week of Jensen.
Yeah, don't play Talia into him. I don't think anyone landed a single W in lane versus him. He just sidestepped everything.
All right, in the AD carry position, we're going over to TSM to find Sven.
Yeah, no, there was that disappointing loss to Clutch Gaming yesterday. He had a huge performance in both the games, especially this today on the Ezreal pick. He just constantly was having huge team fights, almost never dying. The one time he died in that loss to Clutch Gaming was the very, very last team fight, and that was a huge, huge game for them.
Seeing that stat line at a 1-1 record is pretty gross.
Feels bad for him.
Feels real bad.
Probably should have won that game against Clutch.
Yeah.
Oof. All right. Lastly, in the support position, we go back to Cloud9. We find Smoothie, perhaps another MVP candidate.
Yeah, last week we were maybe hyping Pobelter up a bit. This week it's Smoothie. He's been doing this for a while as far as being the shot caller as well as the main guy kind of driving C9's plays, but the meta is favoring him a lot more this season with Alistair being able to make so many plays, and even with Tom Kench being able to facilitate movements around the map. So Smoothie is really showing how hard he's worked over the past couple of years and how good that C9 is humming along.
All right, now many teams picked up huge wins this weekend, so let's look at the fruits of their labor. Cloud9 and Echo Fox remain in first at 7-1, while Team Liquid's 0-2 week has them at third, and Clutch Gaming's 2-0 week has surged them to fourth alongside TSM and 100 Thieves. Now let's see how you two stacked up against the Dart in today's prediction.
The Dart!
Hey,
let's go! Called Golden Guardians, man.
Woo, 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 woo.
The Dart is just so smart.
So smart. Called the only Clutch, the only Golden Guardians victory.
You did beat the Dart.
Yeah, we're not stacking. The Dart lost Dash. They went 2 and 3.
The Dart tied.
It's better than the coin, and it tied Mark.
Yeah, the coin was on 5. I'm undefeated against inanimate objects.
They're tough, dude.
How you doing against your dog?
Losing. Yeah, he's a really smart dog.
The smartest. Yeah. The cat, the karma to help. The cat to help. Oh, dear Lord. All right, not only did the games from week 4 shatter predictions, but they also delivered on moments that made us jump up screaming, and here are the ones that you wouldn't let us ignore. Brought to you by Acer Predator. First up, COG Brotato is regretting his inexcusable decision to bench LirA in Fantasy, especially after its play versus Team Liquid. Take a look.
Making it go, Protobot's good, Hemo Plague lands, LirA's land up the solo kill, top die, impact goes down! Remember, LirA's gonna dance around the barrel, healing is massive, TP'd up from Cloud9, Protobot back in, has the Q, left auto, gonna go in there, the Empower Q's almost done up, but LirA just a little bit more!
Impact feels good about his advantage, chases after LirA, who has an item CS advantage and level advantage, flashes after having that summoner spell advantage as well, and that is just a 1v1 that Impact, he got fooled.
I mean, you talk MVP for people like Smoothie, Pobelt, or Jensen. You better be talking Rookie of the Split for LirA.
Yeah, hands down. Had a little bit of a come-down game versus Flame where they weren't able to go up and help him, but he still was able to win that game, had some monster team fights later on. So LirA looking pretty good right now.
I think that'll be the question, too, right? How does he do when the team stops funneling resources into him like they did in that game you speak of? Next up, Sweet Tune Music praised how Apollo didn't even need a smite to steal the game from TSM.
2 for TSM on that Baron.
Maybe the plan all along was to have Apollo try and steal it, but even
It's
he doesn't have
dropping.
his ultimate. Yeah, Baron, I think, just dead at this point. Hakuho looking for a miracle. Oh, my
got
God, Apollo! A missing shot this time. Steals the Baron out from TSM.
Recon right here.
I need to get vision on this Baron. He's just like
Drake is up soon. Drake is up soon. Can we just wait for Drake?
I got it.
Oh
Nice.
my, you're so fucking good, man.
One more time. We got to give this up for Apollo. The Sun God himself. What is happening? What is happening? He's stolen more objectives than LirA's even been there to contest.
The blue buff?
Yeah. Oh,
He
man.
had the blue buff today. Zyrene was on
Yeah,
both calls,
he
too.
was. The favorite thing about that clip is their junker doesn't even have a smite.
Right.
He switched it for cleanses with an unsealed spellbook Skarner.
He just gave up. He was like, you know what, Apollo, you're getting more objectives than me today. You just go handle that.
Drag, gets a Baron, get a blue buff. Why not? All right, finally, Raging Alien had to slow down the stream to see how Contracts dodged the Sejuani in their first win of the split.
All right, now looking to make the play here. Contract's going to be ulted by that Shen. Meteos stopwatch, but it's only going to buy him a couple of seconds. Contracts grabs the kill.
Well done. You can see Contracts back up, so he got a little bit more time to see the ultimate. Uses his ultimate and the couple of untargetable frames there that Camille does get during her Hextech ultimatum to dodge the Sejuani ultimate, make it a very stylish and very clean kill.
Yeah, congratulations again to Golden Guardians on that first win, but specifically Contracts on the Camille had such a good command of the champion. Like, that wasn't the only big play he had. He did the E-flash at exactly the right time in most circumstances and was really in tune with the rest of his team all game.
I think that's the Contracts, too, that we've seen succeed in the LCS,
Yeah.
right? You
Haven't
remember
seen
those
it this year.
Kha'Zix games and things like that. So kind of maybe hopefully this gives him some confidence back. We start to see him have a little bit more command of the jungle. Now, don't let up on your tweets, so that will always have some big plays to deliver all split long. We'll see who else can make some big plays happen as we close out the first round robin next week. First up, Team Liquid look to pull their way out of third when they face Counterlogic Gaming. After that, 100 Thieves must look to take down Echo Fox with Cloud9 versus TSM in Game 3 and 2 more games to follow to close out the day. For those of you wondering where the alt stream is, be not afraid because Kobe, Sven, and Mithy will be bringing you Echo Fox versus Cloud9 on day 2. That'll be a fun one to watch. We've been tuning into them here on the desk and having a blast listening to those guys.
Absolutely looking forward to Mithy in particular. He's very, very intelligent. If no one's had the chance to listen to Mithy try and break down a game, that'll be excellent because it's on Smoothie, who's been hands down the best support in the league thus far. So having such great insight on Smoothie's play will be fantastic.
But Jack, just looking at the schedule for next week, what's the matchup that excites you most as we close out the first round robin?
I think it's such a cool schedule because we kind of have all the old versus the old and the new versus the new teams. So I really like the COG Team Liquid game for 2 teams that are actually a little bit reeling after that last week. And then obviously TSM versus Cloud9, because even though Cloud9 is looking like they're trying to make that push for the top of standings, currently 2 games ahead of everyone else except for Echo Fox, TSM has had some really close losses and I think are a serious threat to win that game.
Some big matchups to close out the first round robin. Let's send it over to Freak, Kobe, and Ezreal for NALCS tonight, where they'll review this week's games, answer some fan tweets, and look towards next week's matchup. Good night.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to NALC tonight. I am Freak. That is Ezreal. This man in the middle here is Kobe.
That's true.
How y'all doing?
8.5 out of 10.
That's solid. That's a good one.
I'm going to go, 8.4.
8.4?
Okay.
I'm going to go 8. I'm going to go 8.51.
Writing. Yeah, Price is Writing you.
I mean, that's a really bad Price is Writing, though. You're only down by 0.1. 8.51. I automatically win as long as we're doing better than this one. Welcome, of course, NALC
Let's tear him down. We got to bring it back down.
Good luck with that one, but it's only going up from here. I'm feeling good about myself. Let's talk about some really cool stuff that happened today and yesterday in League of Legends at NALCS. A lot of upsets.
Yes.
A lot of upsets.
The upsets were definitely huge this weekend, and a lot of them, the theme for me seemed to be a lot of these hard engaged compositions. They comboed very well multiple different forms of engagement. Like, it felt like a lot of these teams where people had them as the underdogs because of player-to-player matchups, relied on synergy, and they're like, okay, if we have Camille plus Galio, plus Orianna, plus Shen, plus Rakan, like all these different forms, they were able to bring those together for these, hard-forcing fights that we're seeing here.
And one of the parts I really like about comps like this for teams that are maybe struggling or maybe are the underdogs a little bit is how much it simplifies your game plan, right? You don't have to play this necessarily extremely complicated, multifaceted split push, macro style game. It turns out if you just do a really nice engage with Rakan and Galio, you can win the team fight and win the game, right? And I think drafting for clear win conditions like that is just really intelligent when you're struggling.
So, question to you then. Is it not just the right way to play League of Legends? If you're like, oh, let's just draft this narrow win condition, but we're so good we'll hit that timing, like why not just play team fight all the time? If a weak team is a good team, then a good team sure is going to beat a good team.
And my argument against that would just simply be that sometimes if you're playing against teams that are prepared well enough and are handling it, they will never give you those team fights. And then those compositions, you talk about a narrow win condition. I think if the only way is finding that hard engage and the team is warding properly and controlling the map and never giving it to you, then that's how you sometimes see those games where it's like you're in your base and you're down 10K and you haven't ever fought yet.
Also, I would say that right now, I think that split pushing is definitely viable. Like, teams trying to 1-3-1.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of those kind of fall prey to these hard engage comps because a lot of the teams have been very outspoken about troubling communication issues.
Sure.
Because of the off-season roster swap, where there's a lot of talent in the North American LCS now with everybody importing and the teams all trading, but they were all moved around. So a lot of people are trying to get used to other people's voices and other people's views of the game.
It'd also be interesting to me to see if there's any more meta adaptations to kind of answer this, right? If you're going to go for hard engage, if it's going to be about you trying to split push, well, have a Janna with your three-man squad and stuff like that, or Alawi, right? Like waste either counter engage or disengage when they do try to go for that, enables your split pushers to kind of take over the map.
Sure, and we saw some of that attempted and fail. Of course, CLG went with the the Fiora mid and then split pushed against Gangplank. There's some fun things there. But yeah, so we'll see what strategies look like in the future. I want to move on to a team that impresses a lot this week in FlyQuest specifically. Fly came into the mid lane, looked really good overall. I mean, they got a win. They looked really close in the next one as well. And I think they shoot right up the standings, and you got to start buying some stock in these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're definitely happy to have him here for their LCS games. They talked about that a little bit. They also were one of the first ones to use one of these super hard engage comps with Galio in combination, with the Rakan engagement. And they were actually, if you watch them during the Champ Select, started laughing when they got the Galio after second round of ban phase because they already had so much of what they wanted, and it played into their game plan so well. So the preparation, in addition, to having Fly there finally now and having the synergy for these guys, I think all those things really came out this weekend.
And I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with the support situation going on there, right? Because they did try 2 different supports this week.
Right.
Stunt, I thought yesterday had an incredible performance. He was player of the game, had some fantastic Rakan engages, but it was preset that they were going to swap games this week. And it'll be interesting to see where they land because Stunt, to me, has performed very well overall in his time in the NALCS, even with Phoenix 1. But even back then, they decided to go with Shady over him. So, is that going to happen again? We'll have to find out.
All right, let's move on a little bit on the conversation as we talk about FlyQuest getting better and better as a team. Move on to the Twitter section of this one. Jake Benson asks, now that we are coming to the halfway point of the split, who do you predict will make playoffs? So who's your top 6? And I guess Kobe will start. Actually, I already prepped this question, so if you guys want to wait, I'll put in my teams and you guys can come in afterwards. I think C9, TL, Echo Fox, the top 3 is a shoe-in. I think they're in for everyone who talks about this. Automatically top 3. I'm going to go ahead and add TSM, Clutch, and FlyQuest to that list of the ones below them that make the top 6. Which means I say 100 Thieves and CLG drop down.
So you're skipping 100 Thieves. Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I think everyone's going to agree with the top 3. I definitely think TSM is on the up and up. I still see them certainly making the playoffs. I think the last 2 are actually very hard to call because, I mean, if you look between 4th and 8th, there's a 1-game difference, right? Like a lot of these teams can go up and down. 100 Thieves certainly seems like they're on a downtrend. FlyQuest has certainly showed some promise, but I do still have faith, I think, in CLG to pull things together a little bit towards the end of the season, and them not making playoffs at all would be a pretty huge disappointment.
Yeah,
Sorry, just real quick. It's TSM, CLG, and who's your 3rd under the top 3?
I think I would probably have Clutch.
Clutch is your number 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or those not necessarily in order, but
so you're saying 100 Thieves down and like OpTic out
and FlyQuest probably
out.
Not in.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically narrowing this question down to
3 of the next 6.
100 Thieves, Clutch, FlyQuest, and CLG. Choose 2.
I guess.
to get in.
I
with
mean,
the
maybe
rest of
OpTic
them.
makes it up too, right? Like as of yesterday, it looked like they might, go for it because they took down CLG. And it's like, okay, maybe that stock rises.
And because the top 3 teams have been so dominant, have so many more wins than the others, like there's such a small gap. So even though OpTic is in, 8th or 9th or whatever, they're 2 wins behind the 4th place team, right? So things can definitely change pretty quickly, and that has been very exciting because, especially looking back at last week, where this week I think was the week of upsets. Last week was basically everything going according to plan. All the higher seeds were winning. It was looking very dominant, and I was like, oh well, maybe it's kind of settled. Maybe this is just how it is now. But again, we're back to the situation where teams are either inconsistent or there's just this much parity in the league.
As a real minor question, what are the chances that actually Golden Guardians comes up and makes like 6th at their 1-7 record? What are the odds you're gonna get?
I mean, it's pretty low, but it's definitely better after today because they showed a lot of promise. But I think it's still maybe
not
like,
a favorite.
Yeah, definitely not a favorite. Maybe like 12, 13%.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna give it less, like 5%. I think that they're starting quite behind, and they've struggled so heavily in lanes that to me, like the promising part has been mostly about their team fighting, and sometimes their coordination can look good in the mid game. But if you always dig yourselves into a hole before you get there, or you throw it away when you do, I don't know, it's hard.
All right, Price is Right. I'll go $1 on this one, and if it's anything below, then I get to win this one. Next tweet: Angry Man asks, "Can you explain why solo laners are taking Relic Shield at the start of the game?"
Yeah, it's because Relic Shield allows you to start with 3 health potions. That's part of it, so you can take it into lanes where you want a lot more sustain. It also is because the Relic Shield was buffed to have the Bandit passive on it, so that's why you're seeing mainly Gangplank is a huge abuser of that, and the other champions that like to get those autos off. Fiora in mid lane, when we saw him in a double melee matchup, also went with that. So it's a combination of buffing the Relic Shield for with that extra gold generation, as well as just all the health that you're going to get from the item and from the potions.
Exactly. I mean, the base GB10 is obviously a nice addition there, but you're just thinking about how do you maximize sustain, especially to me, it's about like hyper-scaling champions when you talk about GP and Fiora. If you survive early game, doesn't matter if you're trying to kill them. If you're going even, you're like, oh, you're winning this lane, right? And this just gives you a tremendous amount of sustain, especially in combination with biscuit delivery that a lot of GPs are taking now too, so you can often have 4 or 5 potions before you even base.
But for solo queue, you can tell your jungler, hey, I've got a couple relic stacks here. Come gank for me. I'll give you a cannon execution.
They'll just smite your cannon and be like, nah, thanks to mine, dog.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Well,
don't trust him, because Kobe also told me if I give him the relic stacks, he's gonna tax the rest of the wave. So beware. If Kobe is in your games, don't give him anything.
Don't give him any ganks. All right. Next up, Eric Pigeon asks, what would be a better way to help teams end games? Buff Baron, buff super minions. What do you think?
Any of those endgame objectives would clearly help, teams end games. There's multiple things. The most obvious ones are buffing Baron to make it stronger, or Elder Dragon, or reducing the defenses of towers later on. Making inhib respawns longer, buffing super minions. Any of those endgame mechanics that are already in there, just tweaking those to make them stronger. I think the more kind of intricate level to do it would be trying to open up space in the meta to make split pushing strategies maybe stronger. I actually was talking a lot about burst damage. If burst damage is more prevalent, I feel like games end quicker. Because those you can snowball very quickly. But yeah, those are just kind of off the top of the head.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of ways to do it. I mean, you can look at like scaling minions to be tougher to wave clear in the later stages of the game. If they're staying up longer, it's easier to siege. You can obviously look at items like Zerod and Banner, which could theoretically help you to end the game. There's lots of different levers to pull, but it'll be interesting to see which of those are going to be used.
Yeah, I'll take a two-parter here. I agree with you that like any of the end game mechanics, such as Barons, especially like later on, whatever. Like, my initial thought was like, oh, Baron respawns like 6 minutes, like Elder Dragon's 8 minutes, something like that. So it happens more often. You're fighting around it. I'd also like to see less vision in the game so that you can get ganks off more frequently. I know Mark Z did a Blame Game episode about like tracking Akaadian, and he's like, oh look, he's on a ward, and 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 he can't gank because I see him literally his entire jungle path. So things to look out for. Let's move on though. We have next week's games coming up, and we'll bring the schedule up so we can talk about what we're excited about coming up on Saturday. You can see that set of games up on your screen right there. I know the analysts talked about it a little bit, but what here speaks to all of you?
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of good games. I think the 3 at the top of the day are all going to be pretty exciting, and teams especially that are kind of fighting for those playoff spots. I think CLG is going to be a good one, and TSM C9 with TSM looking better. more recently, I think could be a really good challenge for TSM because yes, they have won some games, but are they on the level of Cloud9 yet? Cloud9 has been looking kind of a cut above most of the teams in the league.
Yeah, those two stories you touched on, I'm super curious to find out, you know, kind of the next chapter there, as Cloud9 have been dominating and TSM, you know, trying to reclaim their, what they feel is like their rightful spot, you know, at the top of the North American LCS. But even the next game, the Clutch Gaming versus FlyQuest, those are two of the teams in that kind of pack of four we were talking about as playoff contenders and who's going to knock the other one down. If you're able to take a victory off of your direct competition for that playoff spot, then it's kind of a 2-for-1.
And then, of course, the most exciting of all will be Game 5, where Kobe will be with Sven and Missy
Sunday.
on the lounge on Sunday.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So join them. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, I also agree. My game of Saturday is Clutch versus Fly. I think it's super important. Clutch up to a 2-0 week. They're, you know, at a
no one
spot.
asked you for
it. I asked me. I'm the host. I get to determine what happens. If Mactavic can turn off Ezreal's mic, that would be great. I didn't hear him anymore. I have no more cards to read, so if you don't have anything else to say, then we're done here.
You read everything off of your cards?
Yep. What you want? Here,
Scripted.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to try? Ask me some smart questions, Kobe.
Yeah, he says Kobe is the best caster I have ever worked with.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, those are my notes.
That's really nice of you.
I got you, man.
Good night, everybody. Hope you tune in next week as well.
It's time that these teams start making some statements.
Yeah, we're into the meat of the LCS now. All right, let's get on to Summoner's Rift then.
Not block off the escape, but still 4 versus 2, first blood. Over to FlyQuest with a gangplank ultimate. Sneaky's gonna drop now as well.
Licorice is coming in, there's the flag.
He's able to find the damage. Fly goes down. They're gonna find JJ here as well.
You should actually hit, please. You should actually try to... Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah, you should actually try to hit the ball.
Feed for now. Shockwave finds its way onto 2 members. Contract into the front line. A killing spree onto Meteos. 100 Thieves in retreat.
And the game, Kill them, kill these guys. Let's fucking go, baby! Yeah! Let's fucking go! Finally won it.
Holy shit, guys. They will do it and get themselves on the board. The smile on High's face says it all, Kobe.
No one wants to root for the winners always, because that's kind of boring. So root for us. We'll do our best to get some wins for you guys.
No. One hit. Nice. Oh, no, Sage, up here. Nice job. Of course we can. Of course we can.
That's Dardock in, but he's going to be able to live long enough for the team to get back. The health bars are being deleted on the side of Team Liquid as they get washed away. Hollow over the wall right in the face of LemonNation. He just came up from going down. Is the slide the wall? Oh, no!
And then. No, kill them. I don't want to die. Hey, kill this guy. I'm just ending. No!
Haunter now has to retreat. Reignover also taken incredibly close to death. Mike Young will smack him down.
Big rail exchange.
Mike right back in the fight. They take down Darshan before he can do anything. TSM will make quick work of their rivals and find victory in week 4.